This is a great time for parents to kind of think about what happens when their children aren't in school. Because extended school year, called ESY, if you've never heard about it before, is one of those services that can possibly be offered to you if your child, or should be offered to you if your child has an IEP. You may want to take them up on it. But it really all hinges on, do they forget information? Do they regress when they're off school? And how long does it take them to get back into the swing of things when school starts again? So most of us think about ESY, extended school year services, over the summer, and that's really the main gist of it for most families. That's what you're going to be thinking about, summer. And the reason why we bring it up now is because schools are required for a certain population of children with IEPs to have meetings in the month of February to determine if the child qualifies for extended school year services. And I want to get this right. In Pennsylvania, there's a targeted group of students called the Armstrong Target Group, and they have to have an IEP. And those students in that target group have the following disabilities. They're considered students with severe disabilities, such as autism, pervasive developmental disorder. I think this one is interesting. Serious emotional disturbance, severe intellectual disabilities, and degenerative impairments with mental involvement, and then severe multiple disabilities. So this really targets our kiddos. If your child has an IEP and they are listed as having a serious emotional disturbance, your school is required to set up this extended school year meeting and make a determination with the parent there to talk about does your child qualify, and what should those services look like. Melissa, did you want to say something? You look like you wanted to say something.
Well, and the definition of it, at times I've had the school tell me that it's not for new skills. It's just to maintain, not for new skills. But I have used it in a way that some of the new year that's coming slowly gets introduced, because that's how my child learned. Like, they needed a little bit of information on how something was going to be, and not like a head start on it, just like terminology, words that were going to be used, just that step up of introducing that, the next level of math, which was going to cause havoc.
Yeah.
And just in all honesty, but I've had years that we wanted extended school year and years that we had modified, where extended school year was happening in our home, not going to the school for that, for maintain the skills. It's just like every time I think of extended school year, it is that big maintain. But I think parents, if they took an honest look at what their child was going through over a holiday break that's a week or two long.
Oh, yeah.
How hard was it to get back into the swing of things? And nobody's going to just like bounce right back and, oh yeah, I'm all ready. Even as adults, like, we're on vacation for 2 weeks. It's like, oh, here's Monday, takes a little while to get back into it. I don't mean those things. I mean, like, literally, you're getting a call from the school, like, Sally's struggling. She's like really struggling. And I know it can be a very difficult decision to make, because most of us as parents have the idea of what summer should be, and the memories you want to give your children and the things you want to do with them. I just think that you need to really look at this in every way possible and fit it into your life of what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you. I think sometimes it can go both ways, where the school blows off the parent in a way of like, no, we're not going to do that. No, they don't need that. Or the school's telling the parent and they're like, no, I don't need that. But I just encourage parents to really look at, your individual child, your family, what they need, what they're going to lose by being off school for 3 months, and the things you can put in place. They don't have to be earth-shattering things, but things can be put into place to maintain and possibly introduced for something new.
And I think Melissa, what I would say about that is you just want to be careful how you ask. You may not want to say, you're going to want to think about how you frame that need for extended school year. So, part of this is extended school year needed in keeping with the child's IEP, right? So especially if they're moving, think about, I have so many people who are talking about their kiddos when are moving into a completely new school because they have a new school that's opening. And so maybe they're moving into second grade, maybe they're moving into like fifth grade in a completely new building. That may be a completely different case where your child needs that extended school year services, almost for like recoupment. So if it's in your IEP that your child needs pre-teaching, right? You can try your best to make your case to say, my child needs, these are the services that my child needs. And maybe for a week, 2 or 3 weeks before school starts, maybe they go into the building where somebody, for instance, a child, again, with like an emotional disturbance, with autism, with whatever, is kind of walked through the building so that they get comfortable. They know where things are. Are children who get frustrated really easily. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a new building. It could be they're moving from one wing of the building to a new wing of the building, and they don't deal well with transitions. And we know this. So it could be that is in keeping with the IEP. And we know that it would be overwhelming for our child, and they wouldn't retain that information, or maybe you can do all of it. So if somebody says, oh, well, we will take them over to the new wing of the school and we'll walk them through that before they start, before they move to that wing of the school. So we'll do that at the end of the school year. You could say, that's great. And then let's get together and reinforce that with the child the 2 weeks before school starts, where they could be reminded and refreshed. They could learn how to open their locker, whatever some of those things may be. And then maybe the day of, somebody can also do that with them. So you don't have to take like one or the other. So remember that recoupment is part of that. So if you have a child who has a really hard time dealing with frustration, dealing with transitions, feeling comfortable with maybe social anxiety, all of those things could be reasons why you ask for extended school year services.
I think it's interesting too because of the time frame. Some parents just got through, like, the school year feels like a whirlwind by the time you get to the end of January. And January's so long, it's like 3 months in one.
I'm telling you.
I think when you get contacted by the school where that gets brought up and you're like, it's February, like, I can't think about this now. Why are we doing this now? And not like the last week of school. It takes time to make the plan and really figure out what it is and make sure that it's going to fit your child. And the idea of an IEP is individualized. It's not as easy as just checking a box and everybody with an IEP shows up and this is what we do. That's not how they do it. It's got to be individual to that child, their needs and what they're learning and what they're trying to maintain during that time frame. And I know last year, for whatever reason, we had a lot of parents that just said, no, we're not doing it. One parent was like, we're going to go camping. We need like this mental break. We need to stop. And I think that you're going to have times like that, that's maybe the best choice for you. But I just would encourage parents, when this opportunity comes up, I know it's the middle of winter and it's probably not, you might not even know what you're doing this summer yet for, navigating the whole summer. But I think it's a good time coming off the holidays to think about, how did your child do? Did they have a lot of stress? Did they not maintain what they learned, before? Did too much time pass and they're just, at a loss for what they were really good at because it was repetition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll say, the reality of the situation in most schools, certainly in Pennsylvania, I am sure in America, is you go to your ESY meeting, they say, yes, your child needs extended school year services. Of course, they're going to have it. So this is what we do. We take we're done with school the first week in June. We take a 2-week break. And then the next 2 weeks, your kid comes to school Monday through Thursday. They start at 9:30. We give them a snack. We do some activities with them. And at 12:30, you come get them. They get 8 days, and that's what we offer. And that's that. We know that schools have these canned programs where you send your kiddo, maybe they learn some things, they try and have some fun with them, but they're basically all getting the same thing for their age group, for their school grade level. So, I mean, I can totally see as a parent, and thinking back, my child never did extended school year. Our particular school district was a toxic environment for my child, and we just weren't doing it. I paid for them to they went to the Gauss School, brilliant educational opportunity, and that was where they went to learn to be a part of a group, to have positive experiences, and to build their confidence. And you could definitely see the difference between when they left school at the end of the year and when they walked in after being at GAU, where they were kind of built back up, and then how quickly their posture and their attitude and everything changed when they went back to school and were beaten down. So for us, I was not sending my kid to extended school year services, but things like occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, those services can continue to be offered over the summer, especially if they are emerging skills, if, they're critical need skills. So let's say your child was just being able to communicate in like in a particular manner, they were just learning something. Those services can continue over the summer, and they should be individualized. So your child needs speech therapy services does not mean that they need to go to school, to those canned programs for 2 weeks. Like, how is that going to teach my child speech? How is it going to work on their their physical therapy kind of thing? So, as a parent, you can absolutely push back. And I'll mention that one of the things, so I'll include the link, in Pennsylvania, Patton has really brilliant materials to share, great information. But what I love is that some of the things that can be offered for extended school year services are behavioral or other training for parents or program staff. So the summer is an excellent opportunity if teachers, like, let's talk about what ADHD really is. Let's talk about, you've never taught a child with who hears voices. Let's bring someone in and let's get y'all trained. So I thought that one kind of jumped right out at me. The other things on the list of what extended school year services may include: take home instructional materials. So it could be a little bit of that pre-teaching of the vocabulary of what to expect in math class, some of those things. It can also be if your child is easily frustrated. If, again, we talked about the difficulties with transition. So if now they're going to be moving to a different, the school is moving towards a different way of doing things. Now we know that kids don't get school day or snow days anymore. Now they have like home learning days. I don't know. Those are ridiculous, but whatever. Give the kids a break, for goodness sakes. But if that's something that is changing with your school district, maybe your child needs some time over the summer to learn how to use that, so that when they're trying to manage the material, they don't also have to learn how to manage the technology. So this can be something that could be part of that need for like recruitment for like an emerging skill to understand how to use the technology for when they need to master the material. But it says take home instructional materials, behavioral or other training for parents or program staff, itinerant teacher and or related service provider services. That would be ESY, or that would be speech and language, OTPT. Consultations, tutorials, and services contracted through community or outside agencies. So that is a really interesting opportunity where children learn things in school, but how are they able to translate that learning into the community? So again, speech language services, they're just learning how to verbalize with their like one-on-one speech therapist in a small group. Can they have those conversations on the playground? Can they have a conversation in the community at the grocery store to get change, whatever, to order, from at a restaurant? So I think that there's some really good opportunities. And the only reason why we specifically talk about ESY services is because, again, that population of students who have an IEP, who meet those requirements for those diagnoses, which included, again, like, severe learning disabilities, autism, serious emotional disturbances, serious intellectual disorders, or disabilities. You can look at that list, and the school has the obligation to contact the parent to have a meeting to talk about this. So it's not guaranteed that your child gets it. Just because they had it last year doesn't mean they'll get it again this year. The school can't decide for you. It's a team meeting where you get to share information and have a conversation. But if you're in that specific group, your child has one of those classifications, the school is required to reach out to you. Now, don't fall for we had to make that decision and now it's March 15th, so it's too late. Yeah, nice try. I don't think so. That's not your fault that they didn't contact you if your child has that disability classification. If your child doesn't have one of those disability classifications, they have a disability classification of speech needs, speech and language, whatever. You can have a meeting about extended school year services. It's just not required to be by the end of February.
Yeah, no, I was just asking if the school provided transportation, because when you were saying that the hours were different than regular school hours, like at 9:30 in the morning until, at lunchtime or whatever, working parents, like that's going to provide, like I have a flexible job. I have like easygoing leadership, but I still would have trouble leaving work at 9:30 to take a kid and then come back and go get the kid 3 hours later. And we live in a rural area, so I can't imagine like the people that live out far, that would be difficult.
So I'm gonna make the assumption that the same rule applies if the school district provides education, or if the school district provides transportation regularly. Maybe they have to provide that transportation for extended school year. But that would be something that I have to look into, because I'm not 100% sure, but I would think that if the school typically provides transportation, then they might have to provide that transportation over the summer. But let me look into it, because I don't know that answer. Melissa, do you know that answer?
I know in our school district, they were unable to, and you had to take the child and pick the child up. And in rural areas, somebody could be like 20 miles away from the school, like 15 miles
Yeah.
away from the school. And, we were at times only had one vehicle. Like it wasn't, it just was not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like if the responsibility was on us to get there. I just think that it can be, daunting to try to figure out like how all this is going to work. Sometimes schools have like a whole different group of people that are actually running the summer program.
Yep.
Sometimes that's not, your child's not up for that, that change in, the leadership and the person that's, there. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but it's just someone new, something different. I think that we have to really work at trying to make it fit your child and fit your family. I've done many times where instruction was sent home with me for me to implement it.
Yeah.
And there was just, I don't know, I feel like our kids grow a lot in those 3 months. And I don't know if it's because we really get eyes on them. We see so much more of them than we have the opportunity during the school year. But I always felt like summers were so important, and I wanted very specific things for them and wanted them to have great memories and it be fun. And there's times that school was just the last place. It was almost like, if I send you, you're going to feel like I'm punishing you. Like, why don't I get a break?
Yeah.
Why don't I get to not go? And I think there's a lot of really important things that they need that, you have to weigh the options. Like, is this going to be more important? Or is this something you can work on at home? Is this something where you can sign up for community programs? Just going like, and I'm sure this happens all across Pennsylvania, the public pools, the county pools usually have some kind of program. If you're wanting them to maintain social skills, listening to an adult who isn't their parent, behaving around other children and following the rules, there's a lot of good things that can happen by participating in the library programs if you have the opportunity, or the pool programs. It doesn't have to be just kind of black and white, like this is what you do. It can be what does my child need, and how can I make that happen in a setting that you're happy with? I think sometimes parents get bullied into, oh, you have to do this. You need to do this, and this is what you need to do. And then be made to feel like you're a bad parent if you chose not to, and that's not fair.
Well, and I'll say, like in my case, I didn't always, I wasn't always, if your child's program starts at 9:30 in the morning, who could leave work at 9 or start work late at like 10 o'clock after you drop your kid off? So yeah, sometimes the hours might make it not work. I think it's a conversation to have with the district. If transportation is a barrier, it shouldn't be a take it or leave. It should never be a take it or leave it proposition. Your child, the whole thing is that it's supposed to be individualized. So if your child does have difficulties with transition and you can't be there for whatever reason, you can definitely have that conversation with the school of, look, the 2-week canned program that you offer is not what my child needs for their serious emotional disturbance. Let's talk about how we could build a program that fits my child's needs, also with the IEP in mind. So if they're not going to go to school to do a speech therapy program, if that's not anything that's on their IEP. So, again, you can do your best to kind of make it your own, and some of those push in services. So if your child needs to work with the school counselor, with the therapist, how can that is what my child needs, not the 2-week, 3-week canned program. How can we make that happen? And so maybe that is something that can be done virtually. Maybe there is a different way of doing it. So I would say don't let transportation be that that big barrier, because people work where you live in the middle of nowhere. You can't put your kid on a bus. Even if you live here in a bigger city, you can't put your second grader on a bus, not anymore. For sure, maybe 30 years ago it was fine, but not nowadays. So yeah, make sure that you know what they're offering, what your child needs, and don't be afraid to push for it. If there is a disagreement, I just want to mention this before we're done. If there is a disagreement between the school and you, the school is required to let you know by March 31st what the determination on extended school year is. If they say no, they're required to give you that information on the NORWET. I can never say that word, the Notice of Recommended Educational Placement form, and let you know that they have determined that your child doesn't need it. That gives you the opportunity to file a complaint, so that you can kind of make that determination of, I was offered a canned program that has nothing to do with what my child needs. Same thing if you can turn down what the school is offering for a variety of reasons. I just feel that my child needs a break. We've made other plans to address my child's needs over the summer. I have a special program that's coming in to work with my child, and usually the school's going to back off. They're not likely to fight you that you have to take this program, but kind of keep it in mind that you do have the opportunity. If they tell you no, just like any other time, any other situation where they tell you no in an IEP meeting, they are required to do it in writing through a Notice of Recommended Educational Placement, and that you have the right to disagree with them formally. Any other? I wanted us to talk about it just to put it on parents' radar. If your child has this diagnosis, this classification for their IEP, know that you should be invited to the meeting. If you're not invited to the meeting, you want to know why. And kind of don't let them bully you. We'll put the link in the chat in our show notes, and we would love to hear from our audience to find out what your questions are, what your tricky bits are. I know that there's an awful lot of information out there on school and IEPs and special education and all sorts of things, but it's often not tailored to our children with social, emotional, behavioral, or mental health challenges. So by all means, let us know what you want us to talk about, and if you have some examples of really great extended school year services that your school offered to your child with a mental health need, we'd love to hear it. But thanks for your time, ladies. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.